She's probably a runaway, he said to himself as further argument to just keep going. Runaways meant all sorts of trouble. Drugs, thievery, maybe even prostitution. Why would he want to bring that sort of mess home to the wife? The Liberty was now crawling along, and his foot went to the gas, but a last thought went through his head. What if someone else picked her up? Someone not so nice as Benny Robinson. A pedophile, maybe, or a rapist, or, God forbid, a serial killer. He sighed long and wearily before putting the Liberty in reverse. It hummed back toward the girl, who was standing in the same place, drenched to the bone. She didn't even look toward the car heading right for her. She's on drugs for sure, he said. Benny was all set to regret his decision to come back for her until he saw how fantastically young she was. She didn't look any older than 8. He leaned over the e-brake and opened the passenger side door, expecting her to jump in. However, she didn't. She only stood there wearing nothing but a hospital gown that clung to her skinny body. "Get in!" he yelled to her over the downpour and the slapping rhythm of the windshield wipers. She didn't budge. "It'll be okay," he cried louder. "I won't hurt you." She swayed for a few moments and then moved with awkward and jerky motions. It was bizarre. She was bizarre. For some reason, she stepped up onto the seat instead of sitting on it. It was like watching a mannequin that had come to life. "No, step down there. Not on the seat. Put your foot down there," he said, trying to guide her without being too touchy. He was afraid that she would bolt, and he didn't like the idea of having to run around the forest trying to catch her. When she had finally folded herself properly into the car, he asked, "You okay?" "I'm fine." The 2 words crawled out of a phlegmy throat in a low growl. The answer had been given an automatic reply, given without any thought whatsoever. Benny guessed there wasn't much going on in that bedraggled blonde head. She sat staring straight ahead, her mouth partially open, her eyes dull and unfocused. He glanced back up the road, wondering where the hell she had come from. There wasn't a hospital anywhere around there as far as he knew. He was just west of Hartford, Connecticut, on a lonely stretch of road. There wasn't much around them but trees and a whole lot of rain. With his long turkey neck twisted back, his eyes fell on the gym bag he had thrown onto the rear seat. He started to reach for it, but stopped as the girl finally came to life. Her head quivered on her neck, and she bared her teeth like an animal about to attack. Freaky, Benny thought. It was as though she wanted nothing more than to tear out one of his ribs with her small, feral teeth. If he had to guess, what with the hospital gown and all the weirdness, he supposed he was dealing with some sort of mental case. But where there was a loony bin around there, he didn't know. "It's okay," he said, bringing up the bag nice and slow so as to not freak her out anymore. "I'm getting you a jacket to keep you warm." In answer, she pulled her lips back even further, and in the dark her mouth seemed strangely virile and hungry. Her hands started opening and closing, and she bunched in her seat, again like an animal ready to spring. "Okay, you don't want a jacket? That's fine, I'll just turn up the heat." With exaggerated movements, he turned the heat up to its highest setting. "Is that better?" The question confused her. She started rocking, staring out the front window, making a gurgling sound deep in her throat. Benny gave a little cough. "My name is Benny, or Ben, if that's easier. What's your name?" She didn't answer. Instead, she balled her hands into fists, and her eyes grew large as if she were about to explode. Though it was dark inside the Jeep Liberty, he couldn't help but notice that there was something wrong with the girl's eyes. They were very dark. The pupils were deep pits and seemed to be the size of quarters. The whites of her eyes were like those of a frightened horse. They were 2 little crescents below those black pits. "You don't look so good," Benny said, putting the car in gear. "I think I'll take you—" He stopped in mid-sentence as her chin, a little point of a thing in her heart-shaped face, jerked in his direction. Her lips were curled into a snarl. "Just relax, it'll be okay," he said, holding out a hand to her. She struck at it fast as a spitting snake, drawing blood with her ragged nails. She went to strike again, and that was when he saw that she had part of an IV sticking out of her arm. Thick black blood oozed from it. He pulled his hand back. "You need to settle down," he said sharply, "or I'll kick your ass out. You don't want that."